Hey everyone, today I want to talk about something incredibly important. Have you ever had that moment when a man says something and your gut immediately tenses up, but then that little voice in your head says, no, I'm probably overthinking this. Stop ignoring those instincts. I'm going to share with you 5 phrases that aren't just red flags. They're blaring alarms telling you to protect your heart, your peace, and your future. And trust me, recognizing these patterns could be the most powerful act of self-love you ever choose. Number 1, you're too emotional. When a man looks you straight in the eye and says, "You're too emotional," I need you to listen very carefully. Not to the accusation itself, but to what's really happening beneath the surface. This isn't just a casual comment, it's a subtle but powerful form of dismissal. What he's really saying is, your feelings are inconvenient to me. Here's the truth. Your emotions aren't a design flaw. They're your internal navigation system, evolved over thousands of years to alert you when something doesn't feel right, when boundaries are being crossed, when you're not being treated with respect. When someone tells you you're too emotional, they're essentially saying your natural warning system is malfunctioning. But ask yourself, is it really your emotions that are the problem, or is it his inability to handle them? I see this all the time in my coaching. Women start second-guessing their perfectly valid feelings. They begin tolerating behavior they should never accept. They excuse the inexcusable. And slowly, they start betraying themselves, death by 1,000 small cuts. Society often celebrates women who are cool, chill, unbothered, as if suppressing your emotions is somehow the ultimate achievement. But here's what I want you to understand. Emotional expression in relationships isn't just normal, it's essential. It's how we build trust, create intimacy, and form genuine connections. If a man can't handle your emotions, if he mocks your tears, or dismisses your anger, he's telling you directly that he lacks the emotional maturity for a real relationship. And you need to believe him, because relationships demand engagement with the full spectrum of human emotions: joy, sorrow, fear, vulnerability. If he only wants your laughter but not your tears, your devotion but not your doubts, then what he wants isn't a partner, it's a performance. And you, my friend, are not here to perform. Number 2, I don't believe in labels. This one sounds sophisticated, doesn't it? Non-traditional, open-minded, progressive. Don't fall for it. In most cases, I don't believe in labels isn't enlightened thinking. It's a carefully crafted evasion tactic. It's an attempt to secure all the privileges of a committed relationship, your time, energy, loyalty, intimacy, without offering you the security, respect, and accountability that such a relationship demands. Let me be crystal clear. Labels aren't cages. They're maps. They orient you. They tell you where you stand, who you are to each other, and what you can reasonably expect. When someone rejects the very concept of labels, they're creating permanent ambiguity, a situation where they always have the upper hand, and you're left in a state of perpetual uncertainty. That uncertainty is toxic. It eats away at your peace of mind. It pushes you to overperform, to constantly audition for a role you already deserve. We're meaning-making creatures. We need patterns, structures, and clear definitions because without them, we exist in chaos. A relationship without definition is one where you're forever at risk of being discarded at someone else's whim. When a man refuses to call you his partner, his girlfriend, his significant other, when he shies away from claiming you in words even as he accepts your devotion in actions, he's making a statement that you are temporary, optional, replaceable. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Love requires commitment, and commitment requires courage. To label something is to take a stand. It's saying, I choose you, I claim you, I am responsible to you. Responsibility is the backbone of love. Without it, everything collapses. So when a man tells you he doesn't believe in labels, understand that he's revealing something profound. His unwillingness to bear the necessary burdens of love. He wants the fruit without tending the garden, the shelter without building the walls, the intimacy without making sacrifices. Ask yourself, do you want to spend your precious finite life waiting for someone to realize what you already know deep in your bones? That love without commitment is simply exploitation dressed up in poetic words. You're not here to be someone's beautiful detour on the way to somewhere better. You're here to be chosen, wholly, without hesitation. Number 3, you're lucky I'm with you. This one is particularly insidious. When a man looks at you, after all your patience, kindness, loyalty, and tells you that you're lucky he puts up with you, what he's really doing is attempting to invert reality itself. He's trying to convince you that what you're offering, your care, attention, vulnerability, is somehow a burden. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe him. That's the real danger. Once you internalize the idea that you are a burden, you begin to negotiate against yourself. You become grateful for scraps. You apologize for existing. You lower your expectations bit by bit, telling yourself that you should just be thankful someone is willing to tolerate you at all. There's something deeply malevolent hidden behind statements like this, often disguised as humor or casual frustration. But make no mistake, it's not a joke, it's a power play. If a man can convince you that you're less than you are, he can control you. He can set the terms of the relationship with impunity, because people who think they're burdens don't make demands. They don't set boundaries. They don't leave when they should. They stay, silently suffering, thinking they deserve it. Psychologically, it's a form of emotional abuse that wears down self-esteem slowly, patiently, almost imperceptibly, until one day you realize you're a shadow of the person you once were, too exhausted or frightened to even imagine something better. If you hear these words, I urge you, don't argue. Don't try to prove your worth. Don't beg him to see your value, because if he cannot see it now, if he chooses to frame your very being as an inconvenience, no amount of pleading will change that fundamental calculation in his mind. Your dignity must not be up for debate. You must see through the manipulation and understand that real love never makes you feel small. Real love enlarges you, it strengthens you. It builds you up into something more, not less. And remember this, a man who truly loves and respects a woman sees her as a partner, not a project to be endured. He feels honored to walk beside her, not burdened by her presence. Any man who suggests otherwise is unworthy of the very love he disdains. Number 4, all my exes were crazy. When a man tells you, often with a smirk or a sigh, that all his exes were crazy, at first it might even feel flattering. He's framing you as different, better, somehow above the chaos of his past. But it's a trap, a dangerous one. Because what he's showing you, whether he realizes it or not, is his complete inability to take responsibility for his role in past relationships. A man who demonizes every woman who came before you is a man who has learned nothing. Growth requires reflection, and reflection demands the uncomfortable task of looking at oneself and saying, I made mistakes. I contributed to the downfall. If a man cannot do that, if he instead paints every ex as irrational, vindictive, unstable, what makes you think your story will end any differently? It won't. You're not the exception to his pattern. You're simply the next chapter. This attitude reveals an even deeper immaturity. The refusal to confront one's own failures. It's easy to call someone crazy. It's much harder to admit that you were inattentive, selfish, dismissive, or cruel. But relationships, real ones, are not tidy affairs. They are messy, complicated entanglements of hopes and fears, dreams and wounds. To pretend otherwise is to live in a fantasy world, and relationships cannot thrive in fantasy. They demand brutal honesty. When you hear a man speak about all his exes with contempt, recognize that he's telling you something vital. He lacks the emotional capacity to engage with women as equals. In his mind, women are either goddesses or demons, nothing in between. And the moment you show yourself to be human, with needs, flaws, and complexities, you too will be recast as the villain in his story. Moreover, this narrative of the crazy ex serves another purpose. It isolates you. It primes you not to trust other women. It seeds the idea that he is the only one who truly understands you, that everyone else is unstable, unreliable, dangerous. It's a form of grooming designed to erode your support systems before you even realize what's happening. Healthy men who have done the hard work of growth, speak about their past with nuance and respect. They can acknowledge that things ended badly without dehumanizing the people they once loved. They can admit their mistakes, their regrets, their lessons learned. That's the kind of man you deserve. One who views women not as enemies or conquests, but as fellow travelers through the difficult, beautiful landscape of life. When someone shows you that they've learned nothing from the ruins they left behind, you must believe them, because if you don't, you'll find yourself eventually added to that same list of crazy women he uses to excuse his failure to change. Number 5. You don't need anyone else, just me. This final warning sign might initially sound romantic, like something out of a movie where intense love means complete devotion to one person. But in real life, when a man starts suggesting that you don't need friends, family, or a support network outside of him, he's not expressing love. He's laying the groundwork for isolation. Healthy relationships enhance your world. They don't shrink it. They add connections rather than severing them. When someone truly loves you, they understand that your relationships with others, your friends, your family, your colleagues, make you who you are. They wouldn't dream of asking you to sacrifice those connections. When a man tries to position himself as the only person you need, what he's really saying is, I don't want witnesses. I don't want you to have other perspectives. I don't want you to have people who might question how I treat you. It's a classic control tactic, and it works through incremental steps. First, he might make small comments about your friends, subtle criticisms that plant seeds of doubt. Then come the guilt trips when you spend time with others. Eventually, maintaining those outside relationships becomes so exhausting that you start to let them fade. And that's exactly what he wants. Because a woman with no support system is a woman who's much easier to manipulate, to mistreat, to convince that this relationship, however dysfunctional, is the best she can hope for. Your relationships with others aren't competition for your relationship with him. They're an essential part of a balanced, healthy life. Anyone who can't understand that doesn't want a partner. They want possession. While we're speaking about these 5 warning phrases, I must emphasize something even more fundamental: the importance of trusting your instincts. Because people will say anything, they'll construct castles of language filled with promises and declarations and invite you to live inside them. But words alone are cheap. They require no sacrifice, no change, no proof. A man can tell you he loves you, that he respects you, that he sees a future with you, and mean none of it. Not because he's necessarily malicious, but because it's easier to speak than to act. It's easier to promise than to become. This is why you must learn to trust, not just what you hear, but what you feel when you're around someone. The body knows before the mind admits it. The quiet tightening in your stomach, the sense of walking on eggshells, the persistent feeling that you're asking for too much, simply by wanting to be seen, heard, valued. These are not illusions. They're signals, ancient, primal warnings from the deepest parts of your nervous system, telling you that something is not right. Human beings evolved to detect danger not through conscious thought, but through intuition, through subtle, almost invisible shifts in energy, tone, posture, expression. Yet modern culture has trained us to ignore that wisdom, to privilege politeness over truth, to rationalize away discomfort in favor of fantasy, to believe that if someone says the right things, they must be good for us, even when every cell in our body is screaming otherwise. But you cannot gaslight your soul forever. You cannot live by words alone. Relationships must be measured by actions, by patterns, by how you are made to feel, not merely by what you are told. If a man's presence brings more anxiety than peace, more confusion than clarity, more diminishment than growth. Listen to that. Believe that. Because your instincts are not the enemy. They're the remnants of every woman who came before you, every ancestor who survived long enough for you to be here today. They are your inheritance, and to ignore them is to squander a wisdom far older and wiser than any sweet words whispered in your ear. 6. I'm not ready for anything serious. Here's another one I hear about constantly in my coaching sessions. When a man shrugs his shoulders and tells you, I'm just not ready for anything serious, I need you to hear what he's actually saying, not the softened version you might want to believe. This isn't a timing issue. This isn't about patience. This is him explicitly setting terms. He will accept your affection, your time, your energy, your devotion, but he will not offer the same in return. What makes this phrase particularly dangerous is how it dangles hope just out of reach. The implication is that someday, perhaps he might be ready. And this creates a pernicious dynamic where you're encouraged to wait, to hope, to prove yourself worthy of his eventual commitment. But here's what I've seen time and time again. When someone values connection, when they meet someone extraordinary, they don't respond with hesitation, they respond with decisiveness. You know that feeling when you discover something amazing, a job opportunity, a perfect apartment, a fantastic deal. You don't say, I'm not ready for this great thing. You move quickly because you recognize its value. The same applies in relationships. When a man recognizes your worth, he doesn't create artificial barriers. He doesn't put your relationship in some probationary holding pattern. By accepting his not ready statement, you risk becoming complicit in your own diminishment. You begin tailoring your behavior, suppressing your needs, making yourself smaller and more convenient, all in the desperate hope that someday he'll deem you worthy of his full commitment. But someday is a mirage. It recedes with every step you take toward it. I've sat across from countless women who wasted years, literal years, waiting for a man to be ready. Don't let that be your story. What makes these manipulation tactics so effective is that they target our deepest insecurities and most fundamental needs. As humans, we all want to be accepted, to be understood, to be valued. When someone threatens those needs, even implicitly, it triggers powerful psychological responses. Take the "you're too emotional" line. It works because we all fear being irrational or unreasonable. No one wants to be the crazy person. So when someone labels our legitimate feelings as excessive, we instinctively pull back, question ourselves, try to prove our rationality by suppressing our authentic response. Or the "you're lucky, I'm with you" line. This exploits our fear of abandonment and unworthiness. It creates a sense of artificial scarcity, as if this person who diminishes you is somehow a rare prize, rather than someone who's showing you exactly who they are. The manipulation is particularly effective because it's often mixed with just enough positive reinforcement to keep you hooked. He'll say you're too emotional, then later praise you for being chill. He'll tell you you're lucky he puts up with you, then follow it with a gesture of affection that makes you grateful for the crumb of kindness. This is classic intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological principle that makes gambling so addictive. The unpredictability of reward creates a stronger attachment than consistent positive treatment would. Understanding these mechanisms doesn't make you immune to them. We're all human, but awareness is the first step toward freedom. When you can name the tactic, you can see it for what it is, not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of his inadequacy. If any of these phrases sound familiar to you, I want you to know something important. Walking away isn't failure, it's courage. It's saying, I will not negotiate my peace. I will not shrink my soul to fit into a space that was never meant for me. You are deserving of a love that celebrates, respects, and uplifts every part of you. A love that doesn't require you to constantly prove your worth or apologize for your needs. A love that meets you with equal force, equal commitment, equal courage. Remember this, the right person doesn't make you constantly question where you stand. The right relationship doesn't leave you feeling smaller, weaker, less certain of yourself. The right love expands your world. It doesn't contract it. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to look at a situation clearly without the fog of hope or fear and say, this is not enough for me. This is not what I came here for. Because you didn't come here to live a half-life, to accept crumbs when you deserve a feast, to spend your days walking on eggshells or shrinking yourself to make someone else comfortable. I see this pattern in my retreats and workshops constantly. Women who finally gather the courage to leave relationships that diminished them tell me the same thing. I wish I'd done it soon. Not once have I heard someone say they regretted walking away from someone who consistently made them feel small, anxious, or unworthy. The healing begins the moment you choose yourself. It's not easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. But on the other side of that decision is a piece you may have forgotten was possible. A chance to rediscover parts of yourself that were silenced or suppressed. An opportunity to create space for the kind of love that adds to your life rather than depleting it. You came here to live boldly, to love fully, and to be met with the same courage you offer. Don't settle for less. Not now, not ever. Has anyone experienced these warning signs before? What helped you find the strength to walk away? Share your stories in the comments. Your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. It's the foundation upon which all healthy love is built.